Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. The next big appointment concerning the future of 007 is here, as Stephen Knight is confirmed as writing the next James Bond film. And as such, we're going to talk a little bit about his previous work and what we can potentially glean from that in relation to Bond. Like, you know, how he was one of the creators of the TV quiz show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is going to give a whole new spin to those villain interrogation staple scenes.
You were wondering what it cost.
As a matter of fact, I was.
Is it A, $1 million? I'm joking, of course, but yes, Stephen Knight, creator of Peaky Blinders, SAS Rogue Heroes, and 1,000 Blows, is going to be writing the next Bond film. This was confirmed on July 31st, 2025, and as luck would have it, Knight appeared on a BBC radio show the morning of August 1st to promote a documentary he had executive produced, but obviously no one was going to ignore the wooden elephant on the souvenir stall as he provided some brief comments as to how he got the gig and a very, very, very top line description of what he wants to bring to the film.
Stephen joins us now. Morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
Now, before we get onto the documentary, I obviously have to ask you about the new Bond film. You're going to be the writer. It was announced yesterday.
Yay!
That is extremely exciting, isn't it?
Congratulations.
It really is, and you know, it was always been on my bucket list, and it's fantastic to be invited to do it, and I can't wait to get started.
What's the sort of process of getting given that job? Do you have to give them a load of ideas? Do you have to? I mean, you know, people know you can write. Do you have to still like send them writing samples? What's the vibe?
No, it was. I was invited to a meeting with Amy Pascal, and didn't know what it was about, and very quickly discovered what it was about, and became very, very excited and hopeful. And then a process is followed where you do some meetings, you discuss some ideas, and then you find out you've got it. So that was I found out a while ago, but it was announced last night, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel a little bit nervous? I mean, it's exciting, but I mean, it's high pressure, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, the way I look at it, you just got to do what you do it as well as you can, and then what else can you do? You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that, you know, being a Bond fan for so many years, that will sort of be imbued into me, and I will be able to produce something that's the same but different and better and stronger and bolder.
And just remind me, who is the new Bond going to be?
That is a very, very good question, and one I can't give you the answer to.
Good stuff. So let's talk about the Birmingham City doc then.
The same but different and better and stronger and bolder is the quote that is sticking with me from that little interview, and it's kind of music to my ears in an awful lot of ways, because surely that's what the majority of us Bond fans want from the future of Bond, right? The same but different, because of course there is the tried and tested, very successful 007 movie formula, and I don't think that anyone wants to necessarily divert from that too much. There are a lot of staples that I think us fans are dying to see on screen again, but it of course can't just be a carbon copy of what came in the past, so I don't think that Stephen Knight's job is to reinvent the wheel necessarily, just to give that wheel some nice new gadgets and soup it up a little. Also very interesting, from that brief interview he mentioned about meeting with one of the two producers, Amy Pascal, and his appointment is obviously being announced a month and a bit apart from Denis Villeneuve's announcement as director, and I bring this up because this is displaying just how different this whole pre-production process has been so far compared with Eon Productions when Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson were the producers. Typically speaking, for the past few films, Eon Productions would work with their stalwart writers, Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, and they would decide on a way forward together, broad strokes of what they want the film to be and what they want to achieve with it, and only then would a director be brought on board. They would bring on another writer, of course, along with the director to further refine and polish and add to the ideas that were already there, and Amazon seem to be taking a very different approach with this now, and it's probably an indication of how things are going to work more broadly moving forward. Denis Villeneuve will have his vision and what he wants to achieve, of course, and he's a writer himself, obviously, so he's going to have a whole host of ideas as well, and I guess he's going to be working in tandem with Stephen Knight to bring that particular vision to screen. With Stephen Knight specifically, I suppose you could say that I was, a bit surprised when I read the announcement and looking at his credits and what have you, because I just kind of assumed that Amazon would go for some, like, Hollywood writer for the role. I mean, obviously Amazon is a big American corporation and what have you, and Stephen Knight, he, like, grew up in Birmingham. He's a born and bred Englishman as far as I can tell, and he's worked on a lot of very UK-specific TV shows and films. And I'm really happy about that, because you don't want Bond to lose its inherent sense of Britishness and become all consumed by an American corporate machine. And obviously they could have gone any which way with writers, and you know what, I'm sure that there are many American Hollywood screenwriters who, you know, understand Britishness and could certainly bring that to a screenplay, but obviously this is going to be the first film of the brand new Amazon era of Bond, so the fact that they are at least starting off with a British writer who identifies himself as a Bond fan is something that I'm very pleased about. I'm finding it all super exciting, but I should probably caveat at this point of the video that my excitement about this appointment is largely based on the fact that, yet the wheels are moving and work is getting going on this thing, and they've got a writer who has worked on some immensely successful projects in the past, but the thing is, I haven't actually seen any of Stephen Knight's work. Well, other than Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, of course, because I'm just a quiz show junkie. I am, of course, hugely aware of Peaky Blinders. How could you not be? That show is gigantic. I believe there's a Netflix film following on from, what is it, like 5 or 6 series that they made for the BBC? But huge show, hugely influential, hugely popular. And then I've also heard great things about SAS Rogue Heroes and 1,000 Blows. I've heard really good things about all of these series. I just haven't seen them yet, and I guess I'm really going to have to speed up, because these things have been on my watch list for some time now, and this is probably the impetus I needed to really crack into them. But then, yeah, I mean, even scrolling through his filmography, like when the news broke, I was like scrolling through, and I was like, huh, well, here's kind of how it went. Okay, Gypsy Woman, I haven't seen. Oh, Dirty Pretty Things. Yes, I love Denise Richards in that. Oh no, damn it, that's Wild Things. Amazing Grace, Eastern Promises. Oh, Hummingbird and Locke. I remember those are action movies, right? Woman Walks Ahead, November Criminals. Oh, The Girl in the Spider's Web, another film that I kind of meant to see but haven't at this point. Oh, Serenity. Yeah, no, I've seen Serenity. I really like that, but I thought that was a Joss Whedon film. Oh no, wait, yeah, different Serenity. Locked Down, Spencer. Oh, that's that Princess Diana film that I seem to remember my mum went to see at the cinema. So yeah, similar to how when Denis Villeneuve was announced as the director, and I was like, I need to seek out more of the guy's work because I haven't seen all that much. With Stephen Knight, I've seen like hardly anything, so I really do need to get around to Peaky Blinders. Though I've obviously been doing some online research and what have you, and I've seen some quotes from Stephen Knight, interviews and whatnot, and there was one quote that he made in relation to the characters of SAS Rogue Heroes that seems particularly pertinent when it comes to James Bond. He's referring to the characters from SAS as men who are probably not the easiest people to fit into conventional society. And I was like, oh wow, I mean, you could be describing James Bond with that, like a man who does not fit into conventional society, and if that kind of character is what Stephen Knight gravitates towards and enjoys writing, then that bodes very well for Bond. So yeah, along with his like highly acclaimed TV work, I do really want to seek out, to the point of urgency, some of his action thriller films, and I'll probably end up posting some videos on the channel reviewing them. Girl in the Spider's Web is something that I have been wanting to see for some time now. And yeah, I want to get a gauge for the guy's kind of, you know, how he writes dialogue, how his action movies are plotted. I think that's all going to be very interesting. It is going to be slightly surreal to not have a Bond film written by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade after so many over the years, and you know, you do just have you end up with a bit of an ear for like specific lines where you can kind of tell like, ah yes, that I bet you anything that was a Neil Purvis and Robert Wade line. And losing that sense of familiarity is going to be interesting, because particularly over the Daniel Craig era, they worked on a couple of Pierce Brosnan films as well, of course, but they were throughout the Daniel Craig films. They were like very key creatives that were involved in all of those films, and I think since Skyfall they were saying like, oh, that's our last one, we're not coming back for another one, and then they would always get brought back ultimately. And you know, I think most people are probably ready for a bit of a change, a bit of a different perspective. I know we've talked about how certain plot elements and what have you get repeated over the years, so the similarities between The World Is Not Enough and Skyfall, for instance, with the plot all being about MI6 is blown up and all that kind of thing. So bringing in someone new at this point in the film's development with fresh eyes and fresh ideas can not be a bad thing, I don't think. That being said, Neil Purvis and Robert Wade knew their Fleming. They knew those books incredibly well, and I think they talk about it in one of the Dine of the Day making of documentaries, that they would always look to start with Fleming.
The process really starts with Michael and Barbara and Neil and myself reminding each other of the things that are great in the novels.
And I do still think that Ian Fleming's writing is going to be very relevant to, yes, those books are very old and time has moved on in a lot of ways, but the character is there in the books, he's there on the page, and I think to divert from that too much would be to its detriment. So I will be very interested to read and listen to interviews with Stephen Knight over the course of like the next few years to listen out for, yeah, is he gonna mention Fleming? Are they gonna sort of talk about going back to the books and harnessing the character that's there on the page? And obviously the man has worked on some incredibly successful TV series, and I do think that that's interesting that they've gone to someone who has created so many successful TV series, because is that kind of like how they're thinking of the future of Bond? Is that why they've got a writer who has done a lot of work in TV on it to potentially plot out the future, maybe? If I have to cite one potential hesitation I have about Stephen Knight's appointment, it's that obviously a lot of the stuff that he's worked on that has been incredibly successful has been period setting. Obviously, Peaky Blinders set in the past. I believe SAS Rogue Heroes is set in during World War II. 1,000 Blows is certainly set in the past. I know that. And so in the back of my brain, I'm kind of like, have they, picked him for it because he has a really good grasp of writing period setting stuff? And does that mean that the next Bond film is going to be set in the 50s or 60s or something? Which is a concept that I've talked about on the channel before, as one that I'm not necessarily all that thrilled about. That's not to say a perfectly wonderful film couldn't be made putting Bond in a period setting, but I am a fan of Bond staying in modern times and moving forward, and I think that's how the character and the series is going to remain relevant. I think that might just be me reading a little too much into, some of Stephen Knight's bigger successes, because obviously the man has worked on a lot of contemporary setting stuff, but it's just because those are the three big series that he's created that have a lot of, critical praise and what have you. So I'm just sort of speculating, but yeah, just putting it out there, because I think until it's absolutely confirmed that Bond is going to be set in the modern day, as he always has been, contemporary times, until that's confirmed, I think, there's lots of room to speculate on where they could go with it. Anyway, that's my take on this latest appointment. Please do let me know your own thoughts in the comments section below. I'm a little bit late getting around to this news, as you probably noticed, because when the news broke, I was on holiday. I went to Portugal for a week with a couple of friends, which was really lovely, and totally didn't plan on going to any Bond locations, but I did want to share that I did. Our hotel in Lisbon was literally around the corner, like a couple of minutes walk from the place where George Lazenby buys the wedding ring for Tracy in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I did get a big thrill out of being able to see that place in real life, and also see that it has barely changed. Like, you go to a lot of Bond locations and they changed quite a bit, like ones in London that I've been to and stuff, they inevitably, like, the skyline changes and what have you, but this looked exactly the same, and it was really cool. So I did just want to share that. And I swear like we didn't go there with the mindset of like finding it, but just the day before I was like, I wonder where that is in relation to the hotel, and sure enough it's right around the corner, so I just can't escape Bond locations for the life in me, I guess. But yes, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so by scrolling below and clicking the subscribe button. There's also the Mrs. Bell notification button to stay up to date on future video uploads, of which there will be many moving forward as the wheels continue to turn. So with all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.